All right, I figured we get started, and the two of you are here. So, looking at your identity packages, Josh, amazing work. Nice job.
Thank you.
You compacted this well so that it communicates. You've got sort of different tests of like different backgrounds, I guess.
I like doing a light one and a dark one
Right.
because
Yeah, that's good. Um, so in your identity package, you've got these kind of shapes that sort of look like the mid-century kind of look. Um, the the containing shape around this it's not fitting really well, and it feels a bit arbitrary. You've done so much beautiful custom work.
can you go to share screen?
Oh, sorry, I thought I clicked that already. There we go. All right,
Thank you,
there's
sir.
Josh's great work. Here we go. So when you think of this containing shape, maybe it could be a little more custom to fit this. I mean,
Okay.
I would keep it fairly simple, but you know, for instance, just the oval it's not conducive to the.
Almost a 1950s, 60s old sign, the
Yeah,
odd
maybe.
shaped
Yeah,
signs.
maybe something like that. I like these secondary elements you've got because they do relate to that mid-century kind of look. So
I was worried about them.
you want to pull this one all the way to the red line. That's the bleed of the paper. So that would,
Okay.
yeah. Um,
Okay.
I don't think you need to have the logo type up here if you have the logo. You know, I think that
Okay.
that does it. You can, and the address, you could even put the address knocked out in the bottom or something.
All right.
But this is great job. You did a great job sort of customizing, you know, altering this so that it communicates well. And good use of the halftones there. You figured it out, huh?
A couple videos on YouTube, and it's actually fairly simple.
All right, great. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna go straight over to Amanda.
Hello, good morning from Tennessee.
Hi. I saw yours. Where is it? Yeah, it was here. Yeah, all right. Olympic Coffee. Professor Wood has joined us. Sabrina, are you able to connect? It seems like.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I just was having a little bit of difficulty. I'm on now.
Okay.
So there's, she made a lot of changes based off of the comments that I gave, but there's still some things I would like to see pushed a little bit further. So in my comments, I, talked about smoothing out that bottom curve to kind of emulate the circle a little bit more. Yeah. So I just want that to mimic a little bit more of the circle shape. And then can you just zoom in, Peter, please? And so I don't know if you can see there's this one detail on the side of the horse that doesn't look connected. So maybe if you zoom in.
Oh, right there.
Yeah, so that needs to be addressed. And as in terms of the Greek key, where the pattern is ending, you don't want like little tiny pieces of the pattern sticking out. So I would just eliminate those altogether. So like nobody's gonna know that it was supposed to be there. You know what I'm saying? So that it doesn't become like this thing that sticks out to the eye.
Okay.
Now, when we come to the typographic text, you the Olympic is like the letters are spaced out, and then in the coffee you have the ligature with the FF, but it's not working as well. I don't know if the font automatically did that.
Yeah.
I would consider, you know, making maybe my own ligature, or just play with that a little bit more. You see how you have like the space between the O in Olympic and the L, but then with the CO, so the second word just feels so much tighter, partly because of the ligature and the CO. So it kind of loses its continuity in terms of that typographic style. So I would just play with that just a little bit more.
Okay.
Amanda, you know what ligature is? They haven't had typography yet, so
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
that's all
it's
right. I'm just asking.
So a ligature is when two characters form one character for legibility or aesthetic purposes. The most common ligatures are your FF, your FL, and your FI. But there's also discretionary and contextual ligatures like ST and different things like that.
Okay. All right, awesome. Yeah, no, I can definitely play around with that and get it to look a little more smoother.
So you're using a pattern with a star kind of in there? I
Well,
got to zoom in now.
if you remember, one of my logos that I was going to do was going to be more of like that sundial type of design.
Yeah.
I actually I incorporated that into my pattern instead of using that as a logo because it just seemed a little too plain as a logo.
Nice.
I think because the logo already has the Greek key motif, that maybe playing off of that would be better, but that's just something that maybe you'll have to experiment with. So
Okay.
I do
Yeah.
like the star element. I'm just wondering if because the logo has the motif already, if that would be better to, you know, to reiterate.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't know if that would be too you know, repetitive or if doing that would be a little different. So yeah, I mean, I can definitely change that up.
What do you think, Peter?
I would experiment and see what it looks like. You're having fun using patterns. That's awesome. I do like your color palette.
Yes,
It's working.
it definitely has this rich, classic, you know, antiquity feel to it.
Yeah. Yeah, adding this tint to the background of the paper is great. Yeah. So when you use the Photoshop template that comes with this, you get to see them sort of all laid out like as if they're printed, and it really gives you a feeling of the brand of like how they all work together. And I think you'll be very happy.
Awesome. Yeah, I like I said, I really like those colors as well, just because to me, I mean, it did give that antiquity like feel, but it also just it made me think coffee. You know, think
Yeah, that's a good job bringing both connotations together.
thank you.
Yeah. All right, let's zoom out again. Tony. Capelli's Garlic Sticks. This is a fun image. It kind of has a sort of Saul Bass look to me. I'm hoping you created this. It's pretty good.
These were all, if you remember, she had some really great sketches, and this was one of them. And this is actually, she's gone and done quite a bit since my comments last week.
Mm-hmm.
So, because initially she had the gondola facing the other way. I told her to experiment facing this way. And there was some like harsh points. And so I just recommended, you know, using the rounded join tool for the strokes and then making sure that you turn your paths into outlines. When I opened a lot of the logos, I tried to open a lot of the logos like one page in Illustrator just to see how they were constructed. And a lot of the logos, you know, wouldn't be ready to be, you know, sent to someone. There were a lot of them were, you know, relying on strokes, and a lot of, you know, I just recommended a lot of students go and use the Pathfinder merge tool and, you know, object path outline stroke. But yeah, I like the font. It definitely has an Italian feel to it. It really kind of captures the personality. In terms of the small caps for the garlic sticks, it definitely is a true small cap, right? Because they have the same weight. But I'm just not sure that that extra decorative element is needed because the capellis already is so decorative that typically when you want to have a decorative typeface, you want to contrast it with a more simple typeface. And so with the serif typeface, like because of the Capanellis is already serifs, I would probably have selected a sans serif. How do you feel, Peter?
Yeah, the thing is these initial caps create this little gap here. So it's almost like if you do them, if you could do it all caps in a sans serif, almost think of it as a visual sort of like underline under your brand. So it creates a nice smooth horizontal sort of shape from the letters. And the sans serif will do that more effectively. So without these initial caps, it becomes more like an underline, and it could even almost line up with the bottom of the C.
That would be nice.
And I think you'd be very happy. This color for the breadstick feels kind of off to me. It feels kind of like a greenish yellow. I feel like it should be more toasty brown or something.
Yeah, that would be good. And you can definitely find one that harmonizes well with the other colors.
Yeah, I mean, if you take this red and bring the brightness down, and you might find something you like. And you could even do a gradient, I suppose. You want to make it look really toasty. But that would be in contrast with the flat style of the illustration. You know, when I was thinking about Saul Bass, you know, that kind of look, like you might put a photo in here of a breadstick. I don't know what that would look like, but it would be kind of cool look, you know, to have the flat illustration than just a photo of the breadstick.
Something worth maybe experimenting.
Yeah. But nice job overall. So there is your business card, your color palette. So the red and green pick up the Italian flag colors. And then you've got a darker green and a nice sky blue. As far as secondary elements go, you've got this icon, which feels a little different than your logo kind of look. And then you've got a border. There's probably more you could do with that. She's using that font as her sort of info level font.
So when you have a logo typeface, you want it to be distinct. And this is a common thing that I see in my department as well. They find this really great typeface for the logo, and then they just like overuse it, and then it loses its distinct quality. So if you just look at national brands and stuff like that, like you wouldn't find, you know, Coca-Cola using that script font for everything, right? They keep it just for the logo brand, and then they complement with it. So find it, you know, once you find that good sans serif typeface that you can use for the subhead, I think you can probably find something within that family font that you could use for everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. So we did Amanda. We've got Lacey here. Lacey, I think Lacey is in this section.
I have a Lacey in mind too.
Oh, maybe that's yours. There she is. All right. Windsor tea, the very British tea, used a unicorn, which is one of the sort of mythological creatures from the United Kingdom. Looks like the Union Jack trying to make an appearance there.
Yes, so the green color is the Pantone color, and so I haven't quite decided 100% on my color palette yet. But I thought bringing in like the Union Jack would really make it very distinct to British and the English and the tea, and try really like well, the tagline "Steeped in Tradition," trying to bring that steeped in tradition to the logo.
That's a great tagline. So when you use a tagline, typically you'd have your logo type be dominant, and then the tagline would be sort of like a sub thought smaller, usually
Okay.
underneath the logo type.
Okay.
I would just say the proportions of your icon to logo type, you need to have the logo type much bigger, and you can give it some hierarchy. It could be Windsor quite big and then T smaller and a simpler font.
Okay.
You have additional thoughts, Sabrina?
I'd like to see the Union Jack, some of those triangles tweaked slightly. But I was going to say the same thing in terms of visual hierarchy. The steeped in tradition should come below and be significantly smaller than the brand name.
Okay.
You've given yourself a good challenge there to try to get the flag onto there. I think the concept is good. I even like the green unicorn. Yeah, so I would spend some time just sort of thinking through colors that work together, knowing that you probably want to have a red in there somewhere.
Right. I have played around with the red, and I just wasn't sure if it was going to look better in like a negative space element. But definitely I can play around with the red some more if you think that would look a lot better.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that would help you sort of flesh out the concept a little more, see if it works. So,
Okay.
all right. And this is the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it didn't update with the envelope. I did experiment with the envelope. I guess it just didn't update when you logged on.
Oh, all right. Well, we could refresh and take a look. There it is. Yeah, so when you build out your colors, you need to make sure that you have some adequate value contrast. Right now, the blue and the green are both very dark, and they can work together, but like you'd have to have a lighter color for type.
Okay.
So think about the team players in terms of your color palette. Like, how do they work together? Some are in front, some are back, some are just tints in the background. The strong use of color feels a little, I feel like if you look at sort of the sort of elegant, nice, there might be some cream and some antique paper, that kind of look for some of your backgrounds.
Okay.
So
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
For the logo, again, just because of the placement of where logos typically sit, on the left side in the top corner, consider, reflecting that unicorn, the face out, and then whenever you have it on the right side, as just a, icon mark, you can definitely put it either way. But for the actual logo itself, consider it facing the other direction.
Oh, okay. I had it facing left on purpose because everything in England and is done on the left side. So that was why I had that facing left.
Yeah, because you drive on the other side.
Right. That was my thoughts behind it. So yeah, I can definitely swap it around. I have no problem doing that.
I think if it's part of the mission statement and part of the brand voice, then it's okay to keep it in that direction. But it
Okay.
kind of has to be said, like we're bucking tradition because we're the ones who created tradition, so we believe it to be this way.
Yeah, right.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. That was very helpful.
Yeah, there was that.
Robert's, I think his is the last one in my group.
Robert, okay. So, Robert, Tortuga jelly beans. And you've got the turtle. and a wonderful color palette that's full of bright, happy, jelly beany colors. Your logo's still black and white though.
Colors really harmonize well, but they're all kind of the same level of intensity.
Of value, yeah.
So you may have to, you know, just at least create something neutral in the scheme to make it work. Possibly just like the white border that you have around the tortoise hexagonal shapes might be sufficient to make those different colors work. But in terms of the path fitting, you don't want to have those little tiny black gaps. So once you know, create outlines out of your strokes, then you can, you know, come in, release the compound path, and just delete those little black areas.
Yeah, and then you'll have really a lot of fun coloring this.
I think too, like in terms of the top, what are they called? Fins? Or what are they called? I don't know. Legs?
Flippers, yeah.
I like the shape of the bottom ones. The top ones kind of have a totally different feel. So maybe you can just mimic the bottom shape a little bit more. Just feels a little bit.
If you took these shapes and just placed them there, maybe they would work.
Yeah.
You could the one thing, it's like this point, super sharp point. It would sort of blunt that a little bit, and that might help.
The text doesn't have that like jelly beany feel to it.
Well, these are yeah, these are adult jelly beans. They're you know, think pirates.
I was going to say it looks more like whiskey, but so maybe he's right on.
Yeah. But I would say hierarchy-wise, you could put Tortuga much bigger and have jelly beans be smaller or simpler font, and that would give you a little more branding. Right now, the proportion of logo type to icon is the type's too small.
Now, Peter, I don't know if you can see, but his pattern in the background is a totally different tortoise.
Yes, I did notice that, and it's a beautiful pattern and kind of interesting. I don't know if it's visually compatible with what he's got for a logo, because his logo is very tight and geometric, and that's very amorphous. And so
I was more drawn to that one initially because that was one of his logo ideas he presented.
yeah.
Than the current one, but I understand, you know, sometimes, you know, geometry and precision and so forth.
Appealing. Yeah, so have fun with that. That's gonna be fun. It is fun making your own coloring book. I like this Capelli's logo. So I named this after a colleague of mine, Paul Capelli, and I just found out last week he passed away. I was very upset.
Oh no.
He lives in Italy, but I didn't even know what, you know, it's one of those Facebook things. You just suddenly find out.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, on a happier note, Jasmine. Here's Jasmine. Kuko's Chips. All right, so there's Kuko. She's kind of like the Caribbean version of Wendy's, the hamburger place. I like it.
He's fun.
Jasmine, can you hear us? Are you okay? Are you there?
I can hear you guys. Yeah, I wanted her to be sort like, I was inspired kind of by like the Utz Chips girl. Like, I don't know, I thought she was like so cute, and it's like so friendly, but it's also so universal, and we're gearing towards women. So I was like, why not give her like a cute little hat and stuff? Like maybe
yeah, I love it. It's wonderful. Just from a like 50,000 foot view right away, I feel like her chin should come down more. It's like looks a little cut off or flat. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, her head is kind of supposed to be a lime.
A lime, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I maybe exaggerate the curve a little more because it just, did you see that, Sabrina? Does it look like that to you?
But it does make me like it more.
I mean, do
Okay.
you agree with the chin? chin comment?
Oh, yes. Either the smile needs to go up a little or the line has to come down.
It's just like there's not enough space between the bottom of the smile and the bottom of the chin.
Right.
This is wonderful. You're off to a great start. You're using plantains as a pattern, a fun pattern. You've added this blue, which works well. I think your overall color palette is on brand and looks right. The one thing, it's a little hard to read type over this pattern. So there, you can create more than one pattern using this, and you could maybe make one that's a lot less low contrast. That type could be on top of. For instance, if it didn't have that blue element in it, the type would probably read fine.
Okay.
I'm just going to say the leading on the
Here.
manager is just a little too tight. So just a little bit more spacing between the lines. Just that title.
Okay. How do you guys feel about the I updated it for to edit the back of the vertical. How do you guys feel about the perpendicular like title and name? If you scroll down.
Oh, sorry. Ah.
Yeah.
That is a cool design. It's in the real world, it would be a little impractical. You'd have to print 4-color every person, but go for it. I think that's okay.
Okay.
And you put them in Flushing, New York. Why wouldn't they be in Jamaica? Jamaica, Queens, instead of Flushing, Queens? They could be in Jamaica.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
So ending this pattern like this, it feels a little awkward. What you can do with patterns, you can expand them and then just go in and manually delete tiles out of it to make it just the way you want.
Okay.
So consider that. Let me zoom out. Oops.
But very fun.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Thanks.
See how that color palette all works together? And guess what? There's no black and no white in there. I think you need a little more, your grid needs a little cleanup. So like things lining up and stuff. So, but you'll get there. Nice.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. I think that's everybody in this section. Yeah, Josh stepped it up a bit. He decided to learn and get into the halftone thing because it fit with that mid-century kind of look. So. All right, Heather, Odessa T. It's a little hard to see. So you've got this yellow hand with a leaf. Yellow, all your colors are like full strength, kind of screaming at me. Now this is an old world, you know, Ukrainian brand. I feel like it should have a little more of an antique-y look to it instead of super bright. You don't really have anything functioning as a secondary element. You're using some colors, but maybe, like I said, maybe there's a very light cream yellow for the paper stock on all these items so that it gives it more of that antique-y feel. In particular, it's still like a red, it's primary triadic, which to me says like kids or the Bauhaus maybe, or it's kind of screaming at me. So I feel like it needs some relief. Maybe that, I'm trying to think what the assigned color was. It might be the yellow. But if it's not the yellow, I would take that yellow saturation way down, make it more cream. And you have any thoughts, Sabrina?
I was just looking up Adobe Color and hitting their Explore tab, and I typed in the word Ukraine. I just wanted to see what kind of colors popped up. And a lot of these colors that she chose were very dominant because the flag has the yellow and blue. But I think that she could go with, like you said, a more sophisticated palette that incorporates more subtle tones.
Right, because flags are always kind of brightest colors they can be. That's typically what flags make use of, because there's something you want to carry in front of your troops into battle. You know, it's like kind of designed that way. So it doesn't always make a great color palette for a brand. So this is this comforting, healing tea that you know, your Ukrainian grandmother would give you. That's the idea behind it.
Maybe I could just pop a screen share really quick.
Oh, sure. Hold on.
So this is basically what I did is I just came to Adobe Color and I clicked the Explore tab. And then first I typed in Ukraine. Can everybody see?
Yes.
Okay. And then I typed in Ukraine tea. And I think a lot of things that were just tea came up, but I think you can just see that there's a lot of, you know, inspiration that you can get here, and that could give, you know, and a lot of these include some, like I said, some grounded neutrals and other shades that could just be inspiration for you. So I hope that's helpful, you know, in your research. Might be kind of cool. So, all right, you can go back. Sorry, Peter. See your screen?
Yes. All right. Cheyenne, Pacific Coast Orchard. So I'm not really, okay, so that's your logo, but it's not really locked up. There's the type. This orangey yellow color, which I think might be your assigned color, it doesn't have enough value contrast with white to be used just over white with type. You need a darker color for your type. You're using a pattern that looks like an apple, but it's gigantic. So it doesn't even have a chance to sort of fully repeat within the areas where you're using it. Here, you know, it could be like 80% smaller and become more of a pattern. And then I would give it a background color as well. And then maybe that becomes more like a texture rather than big graphic elements. So even here, when you see your logo kind of locked up, you can't read the type because it's too light on the white background, and it's quite small, and using a script font that it's kind of nice font, but I would say Pacific Coast, way bigger. Orchards could be smaller. And then just plopping on a big block of color here doesn't really do it. You haven't really got a cohesive color palette yet. It's like you've got this purple and green, and then this orange color, and you're taking a tint of it. I think you need a little more variety in color, and you need to make sure you have sufficient contrast, light and dark, so that things can read properly. But I think if you make, yeah, go ahead.
The visual hierarchy on your business card a little bit more. When everything is the exact same size, your eye doesn't gravitate toward anything. So
yeah, name and title should be dominant. You know, your logo should be a big thing, and then name and title, and then all the rest of the information can be smaller and kind of out of the way. So I think you got a little more work to do, and expand your color palette a bit. All right, Aria, this is McFeeney's Irish Snacks. It's turned out to be a pretty cute logo. It's a little complex, but okay. Maybe it could have more color in the icon instead of just straight knockout, but you know. And here it's just looks stretched. The type looks stretched. What you want to do is lock this up, have a file that's your logo, and then place that file when you use it so it's consistent. And then if you change anything, you can change it once and it'll update. Secondary element, you have a clover ghosted back behind the type. I would be a little more creative with how you use this. I'm not a fan of ghosted back stuff under a letter. It just sort of clutters up the space. But you could turn that into a pattern brush or something. Like maybe if you took one and reflected it and then tried it as a pattern brush, it might make a border or something that could look kind of interesting. And then you'd have more of a secondary element to add to your business card and stuff. Taking this red orange color and just sort of desaturating it, it becomes I would say sort of an unappealing color, considering that these are a food product that's kind of a cheese snack. Kind of looks like flesh tone to me.
The knockout of the white on the letterhead works so well that I just want those pieces to be white.
Yeah, over here.
Yeah, so that's where I'm thinking the background color isn't working as well. Like if they were, you know, like in really pastel-y yellow or something like that, cream color, it'd be different. But just the pink isn't working quite as well. In terms of the clover on the McFeeney's, that itself looks like a logo all by itself. So I would consider removing the clover from the name, because now you have elements kind of competing for attention, the clover with the farm scene. And then just that clover could be the pattern that you use instead of the cheese one that, you know, that doesn't read quite as well.
Yeah, the Swiss cheese, yeah, that could work.
So then you can still have the clover element incorporated to some extent as a pattern, but I just think it should be removed from the logo.
And I don't see the C. Something happened to your letter C. It's over here. But that's what I'm saying. If you create a logo lockup as a separate file and then you can place it everywhere, then you're ensured more consistency and it's less work, because if you ever change anything, you can change it once and it'll update elsewhere.
I like the graphic though. I mean,
yeah, the concept for the icon is good. Yeah, and color. It is color theory, right? All right, Michelle. Okay, so you're doing Patty's Pantry. This product is sort of a Irish American, equivalent of potato chips, made with soda bread. It sounds horrific to me, but I made it up. So, so even just at this distance, you can't see your logo type at all. It's practically invisible. Two reasons for that. One is there is not enough value contrast between it and the background. Second thing is the type being wrapped around the icon doesn't work. And we've mentioned this over and over again. So put it underneath Patty's Pantry, nice and large. Look at your Full Sail logo. That's the kind of setup you want to have. This pattern in the background of the letterhead is, for a letterhead, it would have to be super subtle, and this is not subtle enough. It just creates a lot of busyness. I would even maybe skip putting a pattern on letterhead and just make it sort of some sort of cream color or something like that, maybe toasted bread color. Your color palette, the purple is so vibrant. You've got this strong green. I feel like my eye needs a rest. I'm not really sure how it's all coming together there. So let's see. Sorry.
and maybe she's selecting like RGB colors that it comes coming across that vibrant instead of actually Pantones. I don't know.
Yeah, check that. Make sure you're not using RGB. The documents that, the templates are set up in CMYK color space. So you'd have to go in and deliberately change it, which most people don't do.
Okay.
But that's possible because it does look super bright. Yeah, and then you're using a sort of tinted back green. So it's almost like there should be a strategy for, whether you use tints and shades versus just full colors that are different hues. So I just don't, I don't know that that works. And if you think about this as a food product, think food colors, warm colors, maybe a little more toast and bread and that kind of look. Because right now I feel like this is like pesticide or something.
I do like the way the person is extending outside of the oval shape.
Yes.
Yeah, just changing the placement of the text, giving it more weight and presence will really push that, and then just tweaking colors. So
Yeah. And you can do patterns that are low contrast by having two colors that are the same, closer in value and close in hue, but full strength without just sort of not, you know, changing the opacity or doing it like that. All right, Elena, Black Sea Chocolate. This logo's come together pretty well. These little elements, which are like little foam things, I doubt that those are visible when it gets small. It kind of looks like I want to wipe my screen and clean it up. They just don't fit. They're not the right proportions and scale to match everything else. I just think you could eliminate them and be fine without them. This is pretty good looking stuff. These feel a little kind of dainty. I don't know. Your icon, like your lockup, I would keep your lockup kind of consistent, because right here your icon's way bigger to fill up the space. You know, typically if you're going to design a business card, if you haven't designed the logo, you have to figure out how to make it work. Overall, this is really good.
Can you scroll back up though? Just
Yeah.
slightly. So I guess my question is, I just want to make sure the students are getting their fonts from like sources like Adobe Fonts, and not, you know, like the free sites, you know, type of stuff.
Because the caps look too thick.
Yeah, so I don't know if she intentionally made the B and the S larger, or if that's just the way the font was constructed. The way the B goes into the cursive of the L, I would, you know, tweak that a little bit so that it looks more like a smooth line looping into the L.
So it aligns with that
Yeah.
part. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, yeah, that's just my comment there. Can you scroll down? And then also decorative typefaces don't work in all caps. So like where you have Lucy Barker CEO, the CEO isn't working. I would keep it to the same font that you have on the vertical example.
Oh, here, yeah, this doesn't work.
Yeah, rather than using the logo font. Again, just you want to keep the logo font distinct. And once you guys get into typography, you'll learn all those rules.
Right.
Sorry if I'm pushing ahead of the game. You know.
That's all right.
I don't, you know, not being from the department, I don't understand all the threading as much.
Yeah, that's why I was letting you know. But you know, this has been a long-standing discussion among us that typography should be like the first course that everybody takes, instead of the 7th or 8th course. Your letterhead, this has some wonderful elements, but it's a little too much for a letterhead. I would consolidate this down maybe by a third, and the way this cuts off at the top feels very harsh because you've got this organic shape. So I would maybe, you could use these same elements, maybe tone them down a bit and have them take up less of the side of the paper.
I do like the colors of the color scheme a lot. So
yeah,
they harmonize really well together.
Yeah. So just in case I didn't say it, Elena, great job on your logo icon. Good use of color. I think that this all has terrific potential with just some tweaks. So that's a very, very designy envelope. It's cool. I don't think any client would pay for that, but that's something else. That's a different course, I think.
You just might want to, like, you know, make the whole envelope the really light blue, or just keep it white. Just
Yeah.
so that, like you have there, when the postal service wants to scan the zip, they want to make sure the contrast is appropriate, and the post office has their own set of guidelines.
Yeah, the front could be calmed down. You could still keep this in the back, but maybe the front gets just a light blue flood. Except that wouldn't work with our logo. Yeah, you'd have to create a white outline, holding line around the logo to make it work. And she made her own stamp. All right, so this is what I'm talking about. When you put this together, you get the view and say, does it work? Is it a brand? It starts to feel cohesive. I feel like this dark blue really jumps out a little much, but you know, overall, you're getting there. It's coming together.
So what I'm seeing on those business cards is that band. And so maybe that band is what could be incorporated into the letterhead and envelope instead of the swirl.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe. Cheyenne liked it. All right, I think that's it. All right, of the remaining students, do you guys have any questions, comments, stuff you want to talk about before we call it a day?
I had a question actually, because I wrote it in the chat, but I was saying about the saturations and brightnesses. So the color scheme that I have is like a pentagram color scheme.
Yes.
I didn't provide it, but like I am able to like lower the contrast, or not lower the contrast, lower the saturation to it if I want it to be like darker so it recedes a little bit more.
Yes.
But that's still in color theme, correct?
Right. So this is something that I keep trying to clarify, but it never gets through. But when you do that experiment with the different color relationships, that is just a sort of starting off point. You can change the colors. You don't have to stick to any color, any particular color relationship. You can pick any colors you want. So like you said, if you pick pentagram, you could like use a totally different color in with the pentagram. You can change the brightness, saturation, however you feel you need to make it work for your brand. So this is the fun part. It should be. Does that answer your question? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, a lot of times, you use those color tools and they give you a really good scheme, but they don't include any grounded neutrals. So they, you can't always have those colors next to each other, because you might start to see some differing or some vibration. So you have to sometimes tweak some of the colors, even though they harmonize with each other. You have to, it depends on how you're applying them.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. And it's also that like if they're all the same like shade or value that
Yes.
they blend in to a degree. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's kind of where the rubber meets the road. This is what you're doing now. It's like saying, oh, okay, well, I need more contrast, so I'm going to desaturate this color, and you can have, by the way, more than 5 colors. 5 is a starting point, but a lot of brand standards will have multiple colors. You'll have the whole palette of 5, 6 colors, and then you'll have tints of all of them and shades of all of them. It depends on how complex your brand is and what you want.
Thank you.
It's like my old boss said, if it looks good, it is good. So make it look good. Any other questions before we sign off?
Well, yes, sir. You were going back to what Miss Jasmine was talking about. Should I include my halftones as part of my color palette, or is that a secondary palette?
You could, if it's helpful to you. It's not required for the assignment, but the fact that you're thinking about it is already like a plus. So it's it's more work, so you don't have to.
Okay. Well, I mean, for right now, I'm just using a red, a green, and a blue.
Yeah.
And if I add in the halftones, then that brings me up to about 6, I think.
So you're saying that the color of the halftone dots that you're using?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
that
sir.
would be, yeah, that would be one of your colors.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I just wanted to double check on that. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Anything else? We're good? All right. Nice work. We'll be on tomorrow and take a look again, see what else.
Well, I won't, but you will.
Well, I'll be here.
Yeah. I have another obligation. Sorry.
That's all right. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.
Thank you.